you can see that Copilot didn't just understand what I want, but it's actually written the entire code for me.
Now, if we look at AI, we're taking that to the next level. In fact, we're removing an abstraction layer called programming language and replacing it with human language. We're bridging the gap between an idea and the actual code, or if you will, we are helping you to channel your creativity into reality. It means that we have more time for the things that actually matter for us in our project.
Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, had said that we don't need to learn coding anymore. Do you agree with that?
I think the most fundamental skill for any engineer is what we call systems thinking. It's the ability to take a really big problem and analyze it and then break it down into smaller problems, into small building blocks. If you will, Lego blocks. I think everybody will be able to explore coding in the future.
What kind of relationship with GitHub and Microsoft, Thomas and Mr. Satya?
Well, Satya is my boss's boss's boss. Satya, I would say, is our biggest supporter within Microsoft. He was a strong driver behind the acquisition of GitHub through Microsoft.
GitHub คืออะไรครับ GitHub คือแพลตฟอร์มที่ผู้พัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์สามารถที่จะเข้ามาทำงานแบ่งปันแก้ไขแล้วก็ตรวจทานโค้ดร่วมกันได้ในที่เดียวกันและในเวลาเดียวกันครับถ้าเกิดใครหลายคนไม่ได้อยู่ในวงการครับลองคิดภาพคล้ายๆกับตัว Google Docs ครับที่ทุกคนเขาสามารถมาแก้ไขไฟล์มา edit ได้พร้อมๆกันจุดสำคัญที่สุดของ GitHub ครับคือการที่เขาเป็น Open Source ครับก็คือทุกคนเนี่ยสามารถจะหยิบจับโค้ดของนักพัฒนาที่มีมากถึง100ล้านคนเนี่ยในชุมชนไปต่อยอดสร้างสิ่งใหม่ให้กับตัวเองได้ครับบริษัท GitHub เนี่ยก่อตั้งมานานแล้วนะครับตั้งแต่ปี 2007 ครับก่อนที่ในปี 2018 ครับก็จะถูกซื้อกิจการโดย Microsoft ตอนนั้นราคาค่อนข้างสูงนะครับอยู่ที่ 7,500 ล้านดอลลาร์สหรัฐซึ่งคุณซาเทีย นาเดลล่าเนี่ยเป็นตัวตั้งต้นเลยนะครับในการริเริ่มเข้าไปซื้อบริษัทแห่งนี้ด้วยตัวเองภารกิจของเขาก็คือต้องการเสริมสร้างศักยภาพของนักพัฒนาโปรแกรมและเร่งความก้าวหน้าของมนุษยชาติวันนี้ที่ผมมีโอกาสได้พูดคุยกับ CEO คุณโทมัส ดอบเก้เนี่ยน่าสนใจมากครับเพราะว่าเรากำลังอยู่ในช่วงรอยต่อครับของ AI อนาคตของการพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์จะเปลี่ยนไปอย่างไรเราจะไปพูดคุยแบบคลุกวงในกับคุณโทมัส ดอบเก้ Could you please tell us the story of how GitHub was started?
So GitHub, you can think of it as it's the place where all the developers collaborate together, where they're writing code, where they're sharing their code and reviewing that code. And GitHub was founded in late 2007 and launched in early 2008. I wasn't there. I only joined in 2018. But the original founders had that vision of creating a social coding place, a place where developers can come together, create projects, and share their work, and really, build software across the world with no borders, no boundaries. In software development, your name, your title, your background, your religion, all these things do not play a role. It's only about the code that you're writing and the contribution that you want to make to the world.
Mm-hmm. So what makes GitHub different from other similar platforms or other players in this field?
GitHub has been around now for over 16 years, and it's where the majority of open source projects have their home. We call that the home of open source. And so many popular open source projects are there, but also many smaller projects that maybe students or hobbyists create over the weekend. And so we have all that open source. And then on the other side, we have the largest companies around the world using GitHub for their internal development, what you call enterprise developers. And so those two sides collaborate together in the interconnected community of developers. You may say, it's the largest team sport on earth, where millions of players collaborate together and building software.
Okay, individual and enterprise solutions. So I asked Copilot what the future of coding holds. and it responds that the field seems to be heading towards a more collaborative and accessible approach with greater use of AI assistance and domain-specific languages. So, in your opinion, what is the future of coding? ในอดีตครับ developer หรือว่านักพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์เนี่ยต้องเข้าใจฮาร์ดแวร์ด้วยในช่วงยุคปี 70-80 เนี่ยการเขียนโค้ดมันไม่ได้ง่ายเลยนะครับเพราะว่านอกจากจะต้องทำความเข้าใจด้านทักษะเรื่องของภาษาโปรแกรมมิ่งและต้องเข้าใจรายละเอียดสเปคของฮาร์ดแวร์ด้วยเช่นเรื่อง RAM หน่วยความจำคอมพิวเตอร์แต่ว่าปัจจุบันครับภาษาทางด้านโปรแกรมมิ่งนั้นดีขึ้นแล้วก็โครงสร้างระดับชั้นของซอฟต์แวร์เนี่ยทำให้นักพัฒนาสามารถที่จะสร้างระบบซอฟต์แวร์ที่ใหญ่ขึ้นซับซ้อนขึ้นแล้วก็ไม่จำเป็นต้องคำนึงถึงเรื่องฮาร์ดแวร์หรือว่าเรื่องของหน่วยความจำอีกต่อไปนั่นคือยุคในอดีตครับแต่ในยุคอนาคตมันไปอีกขั้นแล้วครับทุกท่านเรื่องของภาษาโปรแกรมมิ่งอาจจะไม่จำเป็นครับเพราะว่าเราอาจจะใช้ภาษาอีกภาษาหนึ่งทดแทนได้ภาษานั้นคือภาษามนุษย์ครับ
If you go back, when I was a kid in the late 70s and through the 80s, coding was very different than it is today. We were still working with very basic, actually literally basic programming languages. You had to understand a lot of the details of the hardware of a computer and the RAM and the memory that computer provided. And actually remember seeing in my mom's office punch cards, and that was a thing even before that. And so if you look at our journey as software developers through those 40 years, you see that the programming languages got better. The abstraction layers enabled us to build larger software systems. And today, almost nobody worries anymore about how much memory the chip in your computer has. They use something called containers to abstract a lot of the hardware away to manage that large scale of software systems. And now if we look at AI, we're taking that to the next level. In fact, we're removing an abstraction layer called programming language and replacing it with human language. And you can just go now into Copilot chat and ask it questions and have it explain code to you, have it write some code to you, and have it find bugs and other problems that you might have introduced while writing that code. And so while, of course, behind the scenes, there is still the machine and there's still a processor that handles, bits and bytes and instruction sets. We're now enabling everyone to use their human language, whether it's German, English, of course, or Thai, Bahasa, and other languages to start building software and use those tools to manage the large software systems that we have in this world.
อย่างที่คุณโทมัส ดัมเก้พูดนะครับว่าหนึ่งในเป้าหมายของ GitHub เนี่ยคือการทำให้นักพัฒนามีความสุขในการสร้างสรรค์สิ่งใหม่ๆแล้วก็เอาเจ้า AI เนี่ยมาช่วยงานยิบย่อยที่นักพัฒนาอาจจะไม่อยากทำเช่นการตรวจทานความถูกต้องของโค้ดช่องโหว่ในเรื่องของความปลอดภัยระบบซอฟต์แวร์หรือว่าแม้กระทั่งการตรวจทานบั๊กที่เกิดขึ้นระหว่างการพัฒนาแล้วก็ AI Copilot เนี่ยนะฮะซึ่งเขาก็ใช้ของบริษัทแม่ของ Microsoft เนี่ยเขาบอกว่าเป็นหนึ่งในฟีเจอร์ที่ชื่อว่า Code Auto Fixเขาจะมาช่วยแบ่งเบาภาระนี้ให้กับนักพัฒนานั่นเองครับ
Now I'm going to ask Copilot to help me write this entire sign up page asking for email, password and password confirmation. But I'm again gonna ask it in Thai. Amazing. You can see that Copilot didn't just understand what I want, but it's actually written the entire code for me.
Yes. I saw the showcase of how to use Thai language on this platform as well yesterday.
Awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, fascinating. So, in your opinion, how do you see AI impacting coding and software development when we look ahead?
I think what will happen if we look ahead is that we, on the one side, enable developers to focus more on the things that they love doing, and we take over some of the things they don't love doing. One common example in software development is you not only can add new features and innovate, be creative, you also have to maintain that source code. You have to fix security vulnerabilities, issues in the code base that might occur on a Friday afternoon when you actually want to take off for the weekend. Instead, your manager tells you, hey, Thomas, we need to fix this vulnerability so we are not creating a risk for our customer data over the weekend. And so now you go into this and you're trying to figure out how to do that with the help of AI and Copilot and something we call code scanning autofix. You can ask the AI to help you with remediating that issue. And so it's almost like magic. You write some code and the AI looks at that code and says, hey, Thomas, you made a mistake here, and this is how you can fix it. And so it reduces the mental workload, the burden of software development, so it can have more fun on the creative part of the job.
Yeah, you just announced new feature, I think. Can you explain more about what is GitHub Copilot Workspace?
Yeah, absolutely. If we look into the history of Copilot, it all started with predicting the next word, the next line, multiple lines of code in the editor. And so that was, we met developers where they are in their editing environment and we helped them writing code. Last year, we introduced chat, which added that chat layer to Copilot, where now you can ask questions, give Copilot instructions, have a conversation with your AI pair programmer. But both of these things were still put into the development environment that developers have been using for the last 20 years. With Copilot Workspace, we're reinventing that environment. We're rethinking how software development works. And it all starts with an idea. And an idea can be just a single written prompt. It can be something you see in a document or, if you will, your to-do list. And you can take that idea and put it into the workspace. And the workspace then tells you, okay, this is how I would do this. This is your specification. And it describes in natural language the steps to implement your idea. And then you can say, okay, this is great, but let me change this a little bit. I didn't actually intend to do this. You can kind of imagine this when your idea is, for example, to build a game, right? And you say, I want to build a game. Now there's a lot of things to figure out in that specification, and you can describe all that in bullet points. And when you're ready to implement this, you can then ask Copilot Workspace to plan out the code changes and then actually implement those code changes. So we're bridging the gap between an idea and the actual code, or if you will, we are helping you to channel your creativity into reality.
How do you expect this feature? I mean, the impact of this workspace.
I think it makes it so much easier to get started, and whether it's a new project that you're working on or whether it's an existing project, right? Many developers very soon have to take over code that they either got from other developers or it's their own code from 3 weeks ago that I now have to not only add stuff to, but also manage all the code that I've written in the last 3 weeks. It's the fundamental difference between software development and things like writing documents or writing articles, right? Because every article is a new artifact. You start with a blank sheet and you might copy and paste something over from the past. But in software, you have to maintain all that old code. And when developers come out of university and join a small or big company, the hardest part is actually to figure out how that company operates. How do they write code? Where in the code base are things implemented? And so Copilot Workspace can help you to figure that all out. It helps you to reduce the barrier of entry, both for new projects and for existing code bases.
I'm not a programmer, but it sounds interesting and
you
fascinating.
You should try it. It actually, even if you might not get all the way to the end, it gives you an idea of what the thing that you want to implement, the task or the issue means for a developer in real life.
Okay, yeah, I will try it. ทีนี้เล่ามาถึงตรงนี้ครับก่อนจะไปฟังบทสนทนาของผมกับคุณโทมัส ดอมเก้เนี่ยผมอยากจะอธิบายหลักการทำงานของการพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์สักเล็กน้อยนะครับเพื่อสำหรับบางคนที่อาจจะไม่ได้อยู่ในวงการเนาะหลายๆคนเนี่ยอาจจะคิดว่าเป็นงานที่เกี่ยวข้องกับทักษะด้านสมองซีกซ้ายหรือว่าวิทยาศาสตร์คณิตศาสตร์ล้วนๆเลยแต่ว่าคุณโทมัสบอกว่าจริงๆแล้วมันคือซีกขวาด้วยครับก็คือทักษะความคิดสร้างสรรค์ในการแก้ไขปัญหาทีนี้หลักการในการพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์พื้นฐานเนี่ยมันมี3ขั้นตอนครับทุกท่าน1คือ ideation and planning ก็คือความคิดริเริ่มในการจะสร้างโปรเจกต์ต่างๆ2คือ design and development ก็คือการพัฒนาตัวซอฟต์แวร์ผ่านภาษาทางด้านโปรแกรมนั่นเองและ3ก็คือ deployment and maintenance คือการใช้งานจริงแล้วก็คอยตรวจสอบพัฒนาข้อบกพร่องของตัวซอฟต์แวร์ครับทีนี้ในวงการเนี่ยสิ่งที่เป็นคอขวดในปัจจุบันคือข้อ2ครับจำเป็นต้องอาศัยนักพัฒนาที่มีทักษะในการพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์ผ่านภาษาทางด้านโปรแกรมหลากหลายด้านเลย ดังนั้นในมุมมองของคุณโทมัสครับเขามองว่า AI จะต้องเข้ามาช่วยทำลายข้อจำกัดดังกล่าวครับเพื่อให้ทุกคนนั้นสามารถจะพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์ได้โดยใช้ภาษามนุษย์ครับมันจะช่วยทำให้ 1. ลดขั้นตอนการทำงานของนักพัฒนาและเอื้อให้เกิดความคิดสร้างสรรค์ในการเริ่มโปรเจกต์ใหม่ๆและ 2. อันนี้น่าจะเป็นตัวที่พลิกเกมมากที่สุดเป็นเกมเชนเจอร์เขาอยากจะเปิดโอกาสให้คนนอกอุตสาหกรรมสามารถจะพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์ได้ด้วยตัวเองใช่แล้วครับเขาอยากให้คนนอกจะเป็นผมเองก็ตามทีที่ไม่ได้มีความรู้เรื่องนี้สักเท่าไหร่อย่างน้อยสามารถเข้าใจและเข้ามามีส่วนร่วมในการพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์น่าทำให้คุณโทมัสเคยพูดไว้เลยนะครับว่าอีก5ปีข้างหน้า AI จะสามารถสร้างโค้ดได้มากกว่า 80% ของการพัฒนาทั้งหมดเลยทีเดียวนั่นหมายความว่าซอฟต์แวร์ที่เราเห็นกันจะเป็น AI เนี่ยช่วยเขียนถึง 80% เลยครับ You once said that AI or Copilot could generate 80% of code in the future in the next 5 years and I think you said this 2022 What does that mean?
It means that we have more time for the things that actually matter for us in our projects. In fact, if you look into the majority of software applications today, they are heavily dependent on open source code that was created by millions of developers around the world in so-called libraries. It's building blocks, if you will, Lego blocks that software developers use. And most projects today already use up to 90% open source. They're pulling in work of others from platforms like GitHub. And the 10% are the things that the developers actually create themselves. And now those 10% though are ever growing, right? The amount of code that we're writing every day is larger than the amount of code that we're deleting every day. And so we need to become more efficient in doing that. And the 80% means that I have more help of writing the stuff that what we call boilerplate code, the things that are repeatable all the time. And that frees up the time that I can use to build something remarkable and something completely new, something that makes my customers happy.
So what's next for GitHub after co-working space, after new features along the way? What's next?
We're still early in our Copilot journey, even though it's been almost 4 years. We started with Copilot in June 2020. We went from auto completion or code suggestions to chat, and now with Workspace, we have opened the next chapter. As we look into the next 3 years, I don't even want to predict 5 or 10 years because that's so far out. And in partnership with Microsoft, in fact, into all parts of the professional life to make developers' life easier. And so we will have AI when fixing security vulnerabilities. We will have AI helping you to review code, and we will have AI to help you to learn coding. To help both professional workers that have been in their job maybe a decade or two, or kids at the age of 6 to learn new technology, because that's what software development has been always about. You have to constantly learn new things.
So do you think everyone will be able to code in the future?
I think everybody will be able to explore coding in the future. We have this big goal for GitHub to go from 100 million or so developers that we have today on the platform to over 1 billion developers by 2030. So that's, at that point in time, probably about 10% of the world's population. Not all of them will be professional software developers. Not all of them will be a software developer in their job in a company. But I think more and more people will be able to leverage software to build something amazing. In the same way that when you attend school, you learn art and music, and maybe you play an instrument or you sing. And I think software development is a similar core skill that every child at the age 6, 7, 8 maybe should start learning, because let's face it, whether you are in Thailand or in the United States and you go to restaurants, many kids actually use smartphones from an even earlier age to watch videos, to play Minecraft, to connect with the world and explore it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. is really massive, 1 billion. What is your strategy to expand your user from like right now, how many? 100 million, right?
Yeah, a bit over 100 million. Yeah.
Yeah, to 1 billion is quite massive. So what is your strategy?
Our strategy has always been to make developers' lives easier, to make them more productive, but also make them more fulfilled, make developers happy. Because happy developers are creative developers. Happy developers are getting things done. They're changing the world, and so that's the key to our strategy: is that we enable developers to be creative, to collaborate without borders on this beautiful planet. And to leverage Copilot to get these things done faster, to figure out, without frustration, how to do things. And if you think about, the job that we're all having, whether it's in software development or in other professions, is we have our natural environment where we are, as developers are writing code. And then you're always reaching a spot where you have to look something up, where you don't know something, or maybe you knew it, but you have forgotten how that syntax was in code. And then you would switch, to the browser or to some other system to look something up, and that throws you out of the flow that you're having. That you're falling off the surfboard. And if you're a surfer, you know that once you're in the water, now you have to paddle back. You have to stand up again. You have to find another wave and get into the flow again. And so AI will help professional workers, creative workers, creative minds, and even hobbyists to stay in that flow, to build the things that they want to build without constantly being frustrated. And then, what you do when you're frustrated, especially when you work in a creative job, is you're moving to something else until you're finding that creative spark again.
I love that metaphor because I love surfing as well. But the question is, Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, had said that we don't need to learn coding anymore. Do you agree with that?
I think, the way I would frame this is slightly different. You have to, it's much easier now to learn coding. Obviously the machine will have still a processor, a chipset, a CPU, or from Jensen, a GPU that has a low-level instruction set, and that's abstracted away in a programming language. And on top of that, now sits human language. But those layers behind the scenes will continue to exist, and we will continue to need experts, professional developers, to maintain those layers in the same way that we maintain bridges and infrastructure in every country. And if those bridges are getting old, we need experts to come in and refurbish them or renew them, or maybe figure out how to build a bigger bridge because the traffic is now so bad. And everybody can take a sheet of paper and draw a bridge on it, but you need real experts that understand all the intricacies of that. And the same is true for software. We are sitting on so much code already. So many banks are still running a programming language called COBOL that was invented in the late 1950s on their mainframes today, powering your credit cards and your bank accounts. That's not going to go away. It's hopefully transforming into a more modern future with the help of AI, but we're still going to have a huge demand for professional software developers.
ซึ่งคุณโทมัสมีมุมมองที่น่าสนใจมาก2มุมเนี่ยเขาบอกอันแรกนักพัฒนายังสำคัญมากๆอยู่ครับทักษะเรื่องของการโคดดิ้งเนี่ยยังสำคัญในแง่ของเรื่องของการเข้าใจโครงสร้างพื้นฐานที่มีความซับซ้อนไม่ว่าจะเป็นตัวเครื่องมืออย่างฮาร์ดแวร์หรือว่าความซับซ้อนขององค์กรสิ่งเหล่านี้ยังเป็นกระบวนการเฉพาะตัวครับที่นักพัฒนาหรือคนที่ร่ำเรียนมาด้านนี้เนี่ยยังสามารถที่จะมีประโยชน์อยู่และมุมที่2ครับเขาก็มองเองว่าเมื่อมี AI เข้ามาหลีกเลี่ยงไม่ได้นักพัฒนาซอฟต์แวร์ก็จำเป็นจะต้องมีการยกระดับทักษะเพิ่มเติมมากขึ้นสิ่งเหล่านั้นคือ System Thinking ครับการแก้ปัญหาอย่างเป็นระบบลองไปฟังเสียงกันครับ I understand that you love Lego right and it makes me think about the mindset or the skill set behind a coding skill I think it's more important to understand the mindset behind coding skills so my question is what or how should we teach our children in the age of AI that everyone will be able to code?
The fascinating thing, about Lego is that it has almost no barrier of entry, right? If I go into any kindergarten or school and I bring a sack of Lego and I put it on the ground, I bet you the kids are coming and are starting to build things. And of course, you can buy many sets today that are more like model building. But the true creativity is that you just have 1,000 random Lego bricks and you put it in front of a kid or an adult, and they will build something that channels their creativity into plastic blocks, and then you can take them all apart and start over again, and it's incredibly cheap. Destroying it only takes a couple of minutes, and then you have those same blocks available. Software is exactly like that. That's, I think, very many folks are fascinated by building software. You take your building blocks. It's a programming language, open source libraries, maybe some tutorials or artwork that you can download from the internet, or that are even already on your machine in form of files, and you can take them and build something by assembling them together. And so both of these things will unlock more creativity, and they will hopefully lead to more children learning coding earlier in their lives. I hope, first grade, second grade in school. And with AI and Copilot, they no longer have to learn English first. They can just, start prompting the Copilot in Thai and get started with creativity with no barrier of entry.
So besides coding, what skills or mindset is very important in the age of AI, in your opinion?
I think the most fundamental skill for any engineer is what we call systems thinking. It's the ability to take a really big problem and analyze it and then break it down into smaller problems, into small building blocks. If you will Lego blocks, and along the way of that systems thinking, of that decomposition of a problem or of a feature or something that you want to add to the machine, you have to have a fundamental understanding of the technology, because otherwise you cannot make those decisions. There's 1,000 different databases. There's millions of open source libraries. There's hundreds of programming languages. You have to pick one, and picking one is often more of an art than a science. And to be a good artist, you have to practice your craft. You have to do it over and over again in many projects to actually become good. Jensen from NVIDIA said the other day, you can only achieve craftsmanship with tenure, as in, over your lifetime, you get better at doing these things. And so I think, systems thinking, developing your craft, developing your skill set, those are and will remain the fundamental skills for any software developer.
Looking ahead, personally, how will you train yourself as a developer? I mean, what skills do you want to upskill more and more in the age of, AI will replace some future of jobs, many jobs will be gone?
I don't think the software development job is going to go away. I think, in fact, we have not enough software developers in this world today, and there's a high demand for more software developers, because every company, every organization is to some degree becoming a software company. They're all building software, whether it's a car manufacturer, a financial services institution, many industries, and even many soccer clubs to some degree build software. Formula One as a sport, as an example, is a software sport, because you have to simulate so much as testing time is highly limited. And so there's a huge demand for software developers, and we will constantly have them, explore new technologies, explore new ways to build these large software systems. And in Thailand, on GitHub, there's about 1 million developers. And I think in our last Octoverse report in 2023, published 900,000, so almost 1 million developers. I think with the help of AI, that number is about to explode. And you see more people getting into software development, leveraging natural language to build software. And the way they do that is, they prompt the AI. So the skill here is to learn how I do that. How do I write a prompt? How do I control the AI, if you will, to get the output that I want? If you have played with an image model, you know that if you just tell a Stable Diffusion to give you an apple, you get an apple, but it might not be actually the apple that you wanted. And so now you are refining your prompt until you get to the output that was in your idea. And the same is true for software development. You have to everybody can write the first prompt, but really the skill is to understand how that AI works, how the Copilot works, and how it generates code for software developers. And so that's where I think the next generation of developers will grow up with this AI native mindset.
Thank you so much. Let's take a bigger picture. Outside your area, what are the potential risks of AI? Where will AI take us as a society, as a humanity?
If you haven't noticed it, but AI is already part of our lives in many ways today. Whether it's the Photos app on your phone that automatically detects all the faces and then puts them in the right albums, and so you don't have to do that yourself. And in fact, if you the Photos app, you can also search just for random words, even though you never said that photo shows a Lego brick. You can find it by just searching for Lego bricks. Your keyboard on your phone uses AI to predict the next 3 words, and obviously, you still have to select the one that's right. Sometimes it's wrong, and sometimes it's magical. Your credit card has AI fraud protection. Your car has some kind of driver assistance systems that maybe keeps only the distance to the car in front of you, or maybe it somewhat drives itself, at least on the highway. And so I think we will have more AI that is part of our lives without us noticing it as AI. It's just another helper that makes our life a little bit better. And I'm incredibly optimistic that we started this AI journey early enough. It's great that we have now technologies like Copilot and ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion that help us to unlock creativity, to help us to understand the opportunity of AI and balance that with the risk, right? Any new technology comes with both risk and with life's improvements. And as long as we can keep that balance in check, as long as we can mitigate the risks through initiatives like responsible AI, through understanding these systems, through regulation with our governments, then we can leverage that opportunity at its fullest potential.
What is the biggest risk that you are expecting, or we should be aware about AI development?
I think today our biggest risk is actually that we are too scared about the term of AI, that we are pushing away to technology, that we are even going to the point where we are saying you cannot use AI because of the fear of the technology. I think that is actually the biggest risk. Instead of embracing that this is a technology that was invented by humans, it is today deployed on servers in data centers built by humans. We are far away from a point where 99% of the things that we do in life can be replaced by a machine. And as such, I think it's instead of worrying about what might come and whether there is the artificial general intelligence AGI or not on the horizon, I think today our best opportunity is to embrace the technology, to learn all about it, to learn how to use it, and to learn how to change it to stay the pilot in that race or in that age of AI, where certainly things will advance quickly over the coming years.
Oh, wonderful. So last question. You are the CEO of one of the largest platform in the world. So what advice would you give to young generation who look up to you?
Yeah, I think I have 2 kids, and my advice is always to explore the world on their own, and on the small scale, whether it's on a playground or as they grow older in their neighborhood and as they grow even older in the world, exploring a new country to learn something. And the same is true in technology. You always have to explore what else is out there to grow, to learn, to change, your perspective on things where as you grow older, you figure out, I always thought about it this way, but there's actually another way of thinking about this. And I think the human as the explorer, that is the most fascinating thing, where we can always build something new and build on top of the old, but also rethinking these ways. And it's true in software, and has always been true, because we were forced to do so as technology has evolved so fast that we had to completely rethink how we are doing software development every other year.
Amazing. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.